Wow, Ellie, look. It's such a clear night. All the stars are out. Look, you've got Vega, Canopus, Mia Goth. Wow, isn't the universe amazing? Anyways, enough about space. This is the Good Movie Podcast, and we're about to go watch Pearl.
So good. So good. We are about to go and see Pearl, and I'm very excited. We forget to introduce ourselves properly every time. We haven't done a formal introduction since the first one. If you don't know who we are, which you probably don't, my name is Ellie.
My name's Molly.
And this is the Good Movie Podcast, where we talk about good movies and we have a good time doing that thing.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. We're going to go see Pearl. Pearl, if you're listening to this and thinking, Pearl, that came out 6 months ago, you're absolutely correct. Except if you live in the UK, it didn't. It came out 2 days ago, 3 days ago, on the 17th of March.
Yeah.
It's not going to be 2 days when you see this, though. It's going to be like a week. So, new for us, old news for you. But we thought we'd do it anyway, because it could be a good fun time.
While the film's not new, our reactions are new.
Oh,
and
wow.
really isn't that's what you're here to listen to.
Yep.
That's why you click.
That was poetic.
I'm going to give you a bit of background about Pearl.
Yeah.
If you saw it when it came out and you're thinking, Pearl, oh, sounds kind of familiar, I'll read you the synopsis. Trapped on an isolated farm, Pearl must tend to her ailing father under the watch of her mother. Lusting for the glamorous life she's seen in the movies, Pearl's temptations and repressions collide.
So it's a prequel to X, which came out last year. It's by Ty West, and we loved X. We really enjoyed X when we saw it. That was good.
That was a fun time. I remember going into that being like, I've got no idea what to expect.
Yeah.
So I had slight background going into this, but still didn't know what to expect because it's a prequel. So it's a whole new story.
Yeah, it's like a whole new thing, except it's just Mia Goth. More story on Mia Goth's character, which is very exciting. From this point on, there will be spoilers. We are going to go see it right now and then come back and let you know what we think. But so, I mean, I'm sure you've probably seen it. Like we said, it's been out for a while for most people. If you're in the UK, though, and you haven't seen it yet, go see it and then come back. You know the drill. We've done this a few times now.
Before we go in, Ellie, give me just a quick, what are you thinking?
Because of it being out for so long, there has been the odd clip or two on Twitter. Yeah. It was very memeable. But I genuinely have seen very little. I've just seen the, I'm a star! That's it. So I don't know. I'm looking forward to it. I don't know that it's going to be as horror-y.
It is described, it's described as a horror slasher.
Okay.
Horror slash slasher.
Slash. Yeah, so, but I'm expecting good things. What are you thinking? Give me quick thoughts.
I'm really excited. I love Mia Goth. Yeah. So I'll watch anything she's in. I'm excited to see her in something quite new for me, considering what I've seen her in the past. So I'm very excited for a bit of a switch up in Mia Goth's.
Well, you've seen X, though. You've seen her in X.
Yeah, but she's not... It's still like... You didn't get a full film of her doing that. She had other people going on. And it's still different. It's a different character.
Yeah.
So...
Okay.
Let's go see it. See you in a sec.
Oh, and we're back.
Oh.
How was that for you?
I thought that was a great movie. Great fitting for this podcast. It was a good movie.
Very nice. I liked it. I think I liked X more.
That's a good, yeah.
But I did really, really like it. And I had a good time. I think there was a very... Okay, here's my initial thoughts, Kat. Like, here's what I'm still working on right now. X was very obviously a horror film. It was a slasher, like you said, an ensemble slasher. Whereas this was still horror, but in very subtle ways.
Mm.
And initially, after leaving the theatre, I was a bit like, oh, it's kind of not really horror-y at all. Like, I don't really know that I found the horror in it other than in the kills. But the more that I think about it, it was horrifying in these really weird pockets of ways.
But I think that's a really good point. I think there were... perfect moments of horror. It wasn't an overwhelming horror. I don't think we were expecting that going in anyway, which is perfect. It just had really good beats of it that felt really nicely placed.
Mm-hmm.
I was getting the tension, I was getting the excitement, and then we went into another cool scene.
Yeah.
Which just flowed nicely.
Yeah. It hit all the marks for me.
It did.
It was really good. It had some really lovely cinematography, some really nice visuals, but we'll get into that.
Let's crack on into the juicy bits, into the highlights. Give me a moment you thought, ooh.
I'm going to start with something silly. And that is Mia Goth's dribble when she was sobbing over not getting the part. And when as she lifted up her head, she was she was just serving so many things, but she was serving snot everywhere. And I loved the commitment. And that's all I have to say on that.
That segues nicely into my point, which was just Mia Goth, the entire movie.
I mean, in defense of us for coming up with two very simple first points, there were only about 3 characters in the whole film. There's 4?
There were
5?
There were barely any, because also the next main character, who was David Corenswet, I think is how you say his name. His character name is Projectionist.
Yeah, he didn't
even get a
character
name.
So in terms of us being like Mia Goth, there's not really much to pick from.
No. Well, this is what we were saying, though, is that with X being ensemble, this is just Mia Goth in this one, really. You're just getting all Mia Goth. She has to be good.
Yeah.
She has to nail it, and she did nail it the entire time.
She did. That monologue at the end was crazy. That's memory. I couldn't do that.
Pearl could be an actress, because Misty instantly said, "Pretend I'm Howard," and she did. That was her improv. That was her method acting. Absolute joke she didn't get the part.
Well, she wasn't method acting. She was saying it from her heart. That was how she felt.
Yeah, there you go. Well, it was improv. I don't know. Either way,
Mia Goth tricked you into thinking she was Pearl acting.
Mia Goth tricked me into thinking she was American. I completely forgot. I was like, oh, she's American, because the accent was very fun.
Yeah.
And I was just like, yeah, she's American. I knew she wasn't Southern. I was like, oh, she's doing a cool Southern accent.
Yeah.
No, she's doing an American Southern accent because she's English.
Obviously, I'm not Southern, and I feel like I always... in case you weren't sure. But I always feel like when you're not from a place, you listen to an accent and you think either that was good or that was terrible. But obviously, only the people that are from there are, I guess, the best people to gauge it.
Yeah.
I think she does a good Southern accent. If you are from the South, can you please tell us if it's a good accent? Because I thought it sounded quite good.
I think she's got such like a unique voice.
Yeah.
I think it automatically just sounds very natural to her. It sounded, I didn't question it once.
She was great. I do want to highlight, just kind of going back to when you just said about the projectionist, top 10 most romantic moments in film when he snipped that little bit of film. Oh, wow.
It wasn't a horror at that moment to me.
It was a romance.
It was a romance.
It was a rom-com. It was not a rom-com. It was romantic.
It was very romantic.
And then it got very not romantic very quickly.
I think he's very romantic. We were saying as we came up, because he's from Hollywood, the show on Netflix, and you instantly said someone saw him in Hollywood and said get him in more 19.
I feel like he's going to be, what's the word, typecast?
Yeah.
For the rest of his career, because he just looks like a classic Hollywood actor.
That's okay, because there's not many of them who are like that, so he'll get them all, and I'm okay with that. He's not got maybe he has to some people. I don't think he's got an iPhone-looking face.
An iPhone-looking face?
Yeah.
I don't know what that means.
I saw people saying it most recently about Daisy Jones. They look like they know what an iPhone is, or they look like they know what... Someone said about someone's
like they don't
teeth,
look
though.
classic,
like they look
enough.
They look mod. Like people said about Dakota Johnson in whatever she was in.
I see.
She doesn't suit the time period, kind of. He does. I think he looks like he fits that.
He did look very... I could believe that he was born in whatever year we were in, 1918?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, he wouldn't have been born in 1918, but you get what I mean.
Yeah.
He would have been born in
he was around then.
18 something. To actually get to a serious point of a moment that I really loved, the argument between Pearl and her mum was really well done. And the reason I liked it so much is because up until that point, I was very much on Pearl's side, even knowing what she'd done, which is, I mean, obviously we've seen X, so we know how the future goes for Pearl and she's not a good person. But because it's Mia Goth, at that point in the film, and I think most people would, I felt sorry for her and I felt bad for her, and, you know, and her mum was really harsh to her, and there were all these things going on. And hearing Pearl, you know, saying how she doesn't want to end up like her mum and things like that, you know, you feel the sadness on both sides. But then hearing the mum talking about how there's this malevolence in her and she's seen that, and you kind of then begin to learn that actually her mum is fully aware that something is not quite right with Pearl, and I don't know whether she knows that she's murderous or whether she just sort of suspects that there's something off, but completely switched how I was looking at it. And as I say, even knowing what she does in the future, you get where she's coming from, and she wants to escape and she wants this big glamorous life. That was a real moment for me where I was like, oh my God, actually, she's not this like innocent heroine It was a real weird moment. I really enjoyed it. And then obviously it kind of goes to chaos because her mum falls in the fire and it gets very bad very fast. But it was a really good moment for me. And I really, really enjoyed it.
It added a very down-to-earth feel to it, though, of having kind of, I suppose, like an outside perspective, looking at Pearl as well, being like, hey,
yeah.
I felt very sorry for her when something didn't go her way. I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
And was forgetting kind of the bigger picture of, oh my God, yeah, she's a terrible person.
Yeah.
So then I think that was a really cool switch to have kind of like, oh my God. And then she instantly, like attacks the mum and you're like, oh. I have a point I'd like to make. Very brief point. She's got great time management skills is something I thought of very heavily in cinema. She woke up from being with the projectionist. She went, it's about 6 o'clock. The audition was at 11. In that time, she murdered 3 people. She cleaned up. She did the bodies, whatever. She made that audition. She was there early.
Also, to add to what you're saying, because I actually noticed this as well, she was in a massive rush, but then was fully prepared to bonk the projectionist.
Yeah.
But she was in a rush 20 minutes before that.
She was going, I need to practice my dance routine. We never saw her practice, which obviously maybe for the teaser, like, don't spoil the dance routine. Cool. Great dance routine. But, like, also it just made me feel like she didn't need to practice. She was just that good.
She said she'd been dancing to the cows and the horses.
Oh,
so she had been practicing.
That wasn't a mistake to me. I was just like, no, she's just that good. She didn't need to practice. I didn't need to see her practice. She's so good. She
practiced her other skills, which included stabbing. She didn't stab anyone. What did she do? Oh, she did with the pitchfork. I was picturing a knife, and then I was like, no, she didn't stab. Psycho noises. That's a hilarious point.
I thought of it, and I was like, wish I could be like that. Not obviously the stuff she does, but it was just really impressive. That's the old people thing, though, isn't it? She woke up at 6 o'clock naturally. In 1918, I think they just did that.
Yeah, the sun comes up, you're like adjusted to waking up when the sun comes up, I imagine. Although there was no sun in that room, I don't know what I'm talking about.
No, that was a basement.
But your body clock.
She's also a psychopath, so maybe it just has something to do with that.
It's murder time, babies! I really want to go back now and watch X to see where I feel as though I don't actually need to do that. There's probably somebody who's written an article on it already. But the parallels between Pearl's life that she really did not want, with her like seeing her parents do it, and how her life with Howard looked. Do you get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I feel as though if we watched X back now, there's going to be so many moments that completely echo her mum and her dad's relationship. And that's going to be like the result. Because I think that was the whole point.
So that was in X. Is that Howard? I just want to clarify.
I was very confused as to why he blew up and then was alive.
No, that wasn't him.
Who was it though?
I took that as she passed another army guy at some points, but I just took that as a army guy. An army guy. I first thought that, well, it wasn't him because he obviously didn't blow up, but was that someone she killed, or was that imagining him blowing up?
I think, well, she squeezed the egg, so I guess, oh no, it was her envisioning her killing him. She wanted him dead.
That makes more sense.
That makes so much more sense. I'm with you now. Sorry. So yes, that was Howard then, but why did he stick around?
This is what I was wondering. That's what I'm curious about, because I wonder if they kind of mentioned, I didn't know if he was ill in X, or if there was some, because obviously then her dad was ill in this one.
Yeah.
So like you're saying, if like parallels of why he sticks around.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. I wonder if they touch on that. Because I think as well, and maybe it's the like, from watching MCU movies of like the Easter eggs, when his car fell in the water and you saw the crocodile for the first time, I was like, oh my God, just like in X.
For the first time, you saw the crocodile the whole way through.
Though 2 separate points. I should have said, when you saw the crocodile for the first time, when you saw the car go in the water. 2 separate points.
Oh, I see. Sorry, because the car goes in the water in X as well, no?
I think you see the car.
Or You've got a great memory.
I have a feeling you see a car.
Now you've said it, I think you might be right.
I know, because I'm assuming that's why they did it in this one.
Yeah.
To be like, and that's how it got there.
I think you're right. And I would not have remembered that unless you said it.
I felt the saddest at Misty's death, I think. I just genuinely really liked her.
She was a very cute character.
Yeah. But I mean, they were all nice. No one should have died. But I felt really sad.
The mum was a bit mean.
Yeah.
She shouldn't have died. No one should die.
Death-worthy.
No, definitely not.
But maybe Misty was the least death-worthy. I don't know. I'm not to say. Anyway.
I was waiting for Mitzi to almost have a slightly mean side. Just because she was kind of presented as, you know, the rich blonde girl. And I kind of thought that they were going to maybe have a moment where when they were at the audition, she maybe betrayed Pearl or something like that.
She never did.
And she didn't. She was just very sweet. And that's how I didn't guess she was going to die, but I was a bit like, oh, maybe she will be mean to Pearl and that will kick something off. And she didn't. She was just really nice.
Yeah. I was willing her to get away. Yeah. As she was walking down the driveway, I was like, because then again, I was wondering if in X, they maybe had made some reference to a friend that Pearl had that had been successful. And I was like, I don't know what happened. And then obviously she didn't, she died.
Yeah.
When Pearl was like, by the way, congrats on getting the part, I was like,
chills down my body.
It wasn't
Get out of there, Mitzi.
It wasn't even that yeah, that's what it was. It wasn't even that dramatic, but I was like, oh no.
When Mitzi said, no, I didn't get the part, and then I can't remember what Pearl said, but Pearl had already said she knows when people lie. I was like, oh no, we're in trouble.
That was a really good scene.
It was from start to finish, and Mitzi's reactions were great as well. The two of them together was great.
I felt really back and forth in that scene because I was like, did she really get the part? And is Pearl going to attack her because she's lying? And then she was like, I did get the part. And I was like, even more dramatic. Oh,
we
no.
won't see that reaction on the podcast, but there was a wide open mouth reaction was what you were saying there.
Big gasp in the cinema.
Big gasps.
A couple of people chuckled at some point in the cinema, and I'm trying to remember at what scene, because when you said, oh, I remember the bit. It was when she kisses the scarecrow and then she goes, I'm married.
Yes.
It was so fun.
That was very funny. I personally found the later stage interactions between Pearl and the projectionist so uncomfortable.
Really?
When she was just shouting at him for not liking her. But it was like intentionally. It was very uncomfortable, that poor man.
He was like, I'm going to dip. And she said, no.
She said, why?
What
have I done wrong? I've just left this food rotting on the side. I've just killed my family. What have I done wrong?
He didn't even know that at that point. She lied about having a dog. And he didn't like that, which is kind of fair, I guess.
Don't lie about your dogs.
Oh, I just remembered another thing I liked. Do you remember the opening to X when it's them panning through the doors? And then they did it again, and I was like, that's so fun.
They did something similar, didn't they? I did think it had a
the same kind of motion, but I suppose in X...
In X, it looked like it was the ratio.
Yes.
And then it wasn't the aspect ratio. It was just the barn doors.
Also, it was setting off the tone of it, because I suppose the start of X, you had the police officers and you had the bodies, I think. Whereas this one was very dreamy and fun. And I really liked the font and...
Yeah, the big
really,
Pearl opening.
Yeah.
And it seemed like it had a really small crew because the credits were tiny.
I feel like the longest part of the credits was like the producers want to thank. But it was very... Yeah, the cast is tiny. And the crew, which I think is really sweet. I don't know. I feel like in a larger point as well. It's the isolation of Pearl. She's not seen many faces. She doesn't know many people.
Oh, yeah. It's very true. She doesn't come across that many people.
No. I enjoyed the plot of X more.
Yep.
If we're going to compare them.
Yep.
I don't think we need to. They're two separate films, but I'm going to say it. The plot of X was a bit more like thrilling, but I felt more charmed and a bit more interested in Pearl.
Yeah. This was, like we said kind of at the start, this was more of a character study. Yeah. This was a lot more...
That's the one I wanted.
It was a lot more Pearl's story, whereas X was very much, it was an ensemble horror. I'm excited for Maxine. I'm very excited for Maxine because I think I am a lot more interested in Mia Goth's younger character in X. And obviously that's who Maxine is. And now having seen this and seeing where he's taking it and where it's going, I'm so excited to see Maxine expanded.
I think as well, seeing that, not that I had any doubts, seeing that they can do Pearl and it's so concentrated on one character.
Yeah.
I'm like, he can nail that again with Maxine. So exactly. I'm then going to be really interested in Maxine because it's the same deal, just a different character.
And it's going to be an acting masterclass to see her do Pearl and then see her do Maxine.
Yeah.
I'm so excited.
It already was in X when she was both of them, but now you just get a deeper dive.
Yeah.
That leads me perfectly, Ellie, into my question that I wanted to ask you.
Go for it.
It was a big talk about town when this came out, and then the Oscars nominations came out, and Pearl wasn't on there. Do you agree or do you disagree? Do you have any opinions on whether or not it should have been acknowledged? Do you think Mia Goth should have been specifically acknowledged?
So this did cross my mind while it was on. It wasn't until the monologue that I was like, oh, I get it. And I now get why everyone was saying that she should have been nominated, because up until that point, she was phenomenal. Still, she was still great. But it wasn't until that bit where you really saw the layers, more sinister parts of her coming out, that I then was thinking, no, this should have had some recognition. I definitely think she will get some recognition in the future. She has to. She's great. But I don't know that it's going to be for horror. And she keeps leaning towards horror at the minute, which is a big win for us. But will it stop her? Will it delay her from getting an Academy Award nomination? Probably.
No, I agree. I think it's a shame. And I think she could have been kind of a starter in getting more horror notice. She might be one of those cool people, though. I know, like Samuel Jackson has said it, to be like, I'm just going to make the movies I want to do. And that's a really good mindset.
And that is all that matters.
She's doing good stuff.
It's all about making the good movies.
It is.
And then we get to talk about them.
Yeah.
That was my shoulder that just popped. There's no way I'm going to be able to cut that out. That was my shoulder popping in the mic.
I thought it was the floor.
No, it was my shoulder.
On a more happier note, maybe. What are you going to rate the movie out of 5 stars?
Oh.
I've done mine, so I'm going to get mine up.
Oh, do yours first.
I think I did 4.5.
4.5?
This is the thing. What's it relying on? It's relying on Mia Goth, and she did it. So, where am I gonna knock it down?
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. To me,
I did 4 stars.
Okay. I think 3.5 is probably where I'm at, but I think with a rewatch, it could be a 4.
That's a good point.
Because I did really enjoy it. And the way that I always try and gauge it is, well, what didn't I like? You know, what are you knocking off rather than what are you giving it for? And in terms of what I'm knocking it off, I don't really have anything. So I enjoyed it. I would have liked a little bit more horror.
That's fair.
But also, that isn't a critique on the film, because I feel like the film was exactly what it set out to do.
Yes.
But for me and my tastes, I would have loved a little bit more killing.
One more murder, please.
One more murder sprinkled in at the start.
She murdered that duck.
But also, I was just going to say that it was a goose.
Yeah, she said Mr. Goose.
But also, I kind of want to take back that point immediately, because it was her
It's her origin
progression.
story.
Exactly. So actually, no, I take it back.
If you want more murder, go and then watch X straight after, and she commits significantly more murder.
So I'm doing 3.5. You're doing 4.5.
No, it's 4.
A 4.
Again, I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why it's not higher.
It's just like your feels, though. Sometimes it's just the vibe.
It's the vibe. 4 stars. I think it's safe to say that we both enjoyed it. Both had a really fun time. Fun?
Murder is fun. It's got me very excited to see Maxine, which I know we've said already, but I am really looking forward to that. When is that due? Do you know when that's coming out?
I want to say 2024.
I had a feeling it was next year. Yeah.
They're probably going to film it this year, so it's probably going to come out next year is my thinking.
Yeah. Do you have any thoughts to round it out? What are your parting thoughts for us? As always, grace us with your lovely final words.
David Cornsweat's a very handsome man.
Okay.
Corn Sweat. I said Corn Sweat.
I think you've said it wrong every time.
David the projectionist.
His name wasn't David.
No, his real name's David.
Oh.
And the projectionist, very attractive man.
Very nice. As always, if you want to tell us about your thoughts on Pearl 6 months after you probably saw it, you can find us over on Twitter and now Instagram. We have an Instagram.
It's the same username.
Same username. It's the Good Movie Pod. Also, we should have addressed this at the start, but we have another microphone now.
Hopefully it sounded better. Hopefully.
Whether you noticed or not, or whether this is actually your first time listening and you've never even noticed before, we have a second microphone.
We're now not sitting 2 inches away from each other. We're now sitting 5 feet away from each other.
It's so great. Thank you guys for listening. As always, we will speak to you guys next week.
Have a lovely weekend.
Have a lovely week.
Have a lovely week /end, depending what day you're watching this. Bye.
Thank Goth.